Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Talking in the last segment about the plain fact, ladies and gentlemen, that regardless of the labels that you use, there are two political parties on the American landscape. One of them has a platform that is in alignment with the laws of nature and nature's God. It affirms life, it affirms marriage, it affirms Israel, and it affirms God. The other political party has a party platform that is completely out of alignment with the revealed will of God. It is contrary, antithetical, hostile to the revealed Word of God. And so what I'm suggesting is if you're looking at these two platforms, this is not a political issue any longer. No more. You can't look at this thing as a mere political issue. Well, I like the purple Tootsie Roll Pops instead of the chocolate ones. It's not like that. This is a profound difference. It's the difference between good and evil, between right and wrong, between light and darkness. Now, it's interesting that the Democrats have got a little bit testy. If you go to clip number 12, this is Senator Dick Durbin. He's on with Brett Baer, Fox News, yesterday. And, of course, I don't know if they thought they could hide this thing or what, but it was obviously clear that the Democrats had removed God from the party platform. God is gone. Now, by the way, the Democrats are out there celebrating the number of Muslims they have attending their convention as delegates, twice as many as they had in 2008. So God is out, but Allah is in. And they're celebrating the fact that almost 10% of their delegates are homosexual activists. So once again, marriage is out and sexual perversion is in the Democratic Party. So anyway, Dick Durbin's on with Brett Baer. Now, Brett Baer is one of the most even-handed. I mean, the guy's a great journalist. He's a great interviewer. I mean, Mitt Romney got agitated with Brett Baer, so it's not like he plays favorites. He just is a good, honest journalist that asks good, solid, penetrating questions. And so he's asking Dick Durbin about the fact that the Democrats have eliminated God from the platform, and here's how their exchange went.
Well, I could just basically tell you, if the narrative that is being presented on your station and through your channel and your network is that the Democrats are godless people, they ought to know better. God is not a franchise of the Republican Party. Those of us who believe in God and those of us who have dedicated our lives to helping others in the name of God don't want to take a second seat to anyone who is suggesting that one word out of the platform means that the Democrats across America are godless.
Well, Dick Durbin, if it's that important, you put it back on the platform. Criminally, don't get agitated. Don't get testy. Don't get belligerent. Put God back on the platform. If what you're saying is true, why in the world did you take his name out? Now, Debbie Wasserman Schultz was being interviewed, by CNN's Piers Morgan. And Piers Morgan was asking her about the removal of the word God. And Piers Morgan asked Debbie Wasserman Schultz, was this a mistake? And she said, well, we have a commitment through all faith traditions that our values are reflected in our policy, blah, 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 blather, 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 blather. So Morgan comes back at her and says, the thing is, somebody has deliberately taken out the word God because it was in the last one. She says, I can assure that no one has deliberately taken God out of our platform. So it was an accident, Piers Morgan said, and she refused to answer the question. So Piers Morgan is obviously, kind of poking her on that one. She's saying, no, nobody deliberately took the name of God. Well, then Piers Morgan says, well, how did that happen? Was it some kind of an accident that the name of God got dropped completely out of the platform? And I came across a fascinating piece. I haven't quite finished reading it, but I'm going to share what I have read of this piece. It's actually a piece from 1992. And the title of the piece is Our Secularist Democratic Party. It's by Louis Bolce, or Bolce, I'm not sure how you say it, B-O-L-C-E, and Gerald DeMayo. And the title of this piece, it's 18 pages, and obviously I'm not going to bore you or reading you the whole thing, but I want to hit some highlights from this paper. It was delivered in 2001 at the annual meeting of the Southern Political Science Association in Atlanta, Georgia. And these two authors say, look, this was in 2002. when this was published in the form that I'm reading it. They're saying by 2002, the Democratic Party had become a secularist party as opposed to a traditionalist party that believes in God and that believes in traditional moral values. And so they were rehearsing kind of the media's coverage of the 2000 presidential campaign. And what they were complaining about is these two authors saying the media has been ignoring the growing influence of secularists in the Democratic Party and has been obfuscating how their worldview is just as powerful a determinant of social attitudes and voting behavior as is a religiously traditionalist outlook. In other words, these guys are saying, look, secularism is just so much a religion as evangelical Christianity, because there are certain values that go with a secularist outlook that are so important to the people that hold to these things that they will brook no compromise. They are non-negotiables for the people that hold to these values. That's why I refer to secularists as secular fundamentalists. They are fundamentalists. They've got a certain set of moral propositions that they cling to. They are fiercely, virulently, vigorously, assertively, aggressively devoted to. Now, this organization, the ANES, I don't even sure what that stands for, the American National Election Study, ANES, American National Election Study, they had this thermometer, and they gave people an opportunity to place on this thermometer how they felt about other groups and other people. And the meme at that time has had to do with a controversy at Bob Jones. For those of you that remember that, George Bush went to Bob Jones University. They had up until a few years previously a ban on interracial dating and all that kind of stuff. And were noted for their anti-Catholicism. And so the media was playing that up. Well, whites voted for George Bush because he's a Protestant and they don't like Catholics. So this ANES went out and they surveyed white fundamentalists and found out, no, white fundamentalists have positive feelings toward Catholics. Their score was 62, and that was identical to the average score that Jews gave to Catholics and significantly warmer than the mean rating given to Catholics by the religiously non-affiliated or by secularists. In other words, what they're saying, contrary to what the media was portraying, evangelicals felt more warmly toward Roman Catholics than secularists did. They're the ones that had cooler attitudes toward the Roman Catholics. Now, white evangelicals gave Jews a rating of 66 degrees, so Catholics 62, that's warm. To their view of Jews, 66 degrees. And it's interesting, Joe Lieberman was a Jew on the ticket with Al Gore 2000, and it turns out that evangelicals felt significantly warmer toward Lieberman, who was a Jew, at 56 degrees, than they did toward Al Gore, who was a Southern Baptist from Tennessee. He got an approval rating of just 42 degrees. And the biggest disapproval for Lieberman came not from evangelicals, but from secularists, who resented the fact that he was a practicing Jew and he was proud of his faith and he talked openly about God. Now, what these writers go on to say is that secularists first appeared as a political force within a major party at the 1972 Democratic National Convention. Now, this is interesting. It's very significant because what these authors are saying is there was a divide that started to emerge in 1972 that did not exist before. That's what I want you to understand from this. This chasm on moral issues didn't start until 1972. Here's what they say. Prior to 1972, neither party contained many secularists nor showed many signs of moral or cultural progressivism. Neither of them. Moreover, prior to the late 1960s, there was something of a tacit commitment among elites in both parties to traditional Judeo-Christian teachings regarding authority, sexual mores, and the family. This consensus was shattered in 1972 when the Democratic Party was captured by a faction whose cultural reform agenda was perceived by many as antagonistic to traditional religious values. And that year, over a third of the delegates to the Democratic National Convention fit the secularist fundamentalist profile, despite the fact that only 5% of the population could be described that way. So I said, look, there was a divide that happened politically in this country starting in 1972, and it's gotten wider with every successive generation. I won't take time to go in detail through the rest. That only gets me up to about page 8, but you get the picture. And what they're saying is that the secular fundamentalists started to exert enormous influence over the Democratic Party starting in 1972. Prior to 1972, both the Democrat Party and the Republican Party believed in the sanctity of life. They believed that abortion was immoral. They believed in the sanctity of marriage. Both parties believed that marriage was the union of one man and one woman. Nobody questioned that. Nobody quibbled with that. Nobody argued with that. Both parties believed that homosexual behavior was contrary to morality, shouldn't be encouraged, ought to be discouraged. Both parties, up until 1972, shared this view. And then starting in 1972, there was this this subversion, this invasion, this underground movement on the part of secular fundamentalists to cut the pillars of morality out from under the Democratic Party and the Democratic Party platform. And starting in 1972, with the secular fundamentalist takeover, the Democratic Party began to move further and further away from Judeo-Christian values until they get to the point today where they have removed God completely from the Democratic Party platform. They are pro-abortion and they are pro-sodomy. Happened gradually, step by step, but it started decisively in 1972. And I would say as of today, ladies and gentlemen, the secular fundamentalist takeover of the Democratic Party is now complete. If you have any allegiance to traditional Judeo-Christian values, you will not find a home in the Democratic Party. Focal Point, AFR Talk. We'll be right back with more. Stay with us.